Hi guys, it's Craig here. I'm sure you can hear the cricket in the background. We feed crickets to our gecko. It's like a lizard. And one of them got loose and is down here in the basement with me. I've tried to catch the son of a gun. I can't. It's back there doing its thing. Nothing we can do. Welcome to the Cricket CraigTube cast or video, okay? Well, what we're going to talk about today is hard apple cider in particular, or inmate brew, whichever one. They both have the same characteristics. And I have a lot of questions coming in on a regular basis about what to do with the hard apple cider or the inmate brew or whatever, what to do with it when it's finished fermenting, when can you drink it, how do you know when it's done? I'm getting these questions, so I finally decided to make a video. I guess I forgot to mention this or complete the video. If you haven't watched the video of me making hard apple cider, I'll put a link down in the more info section down below, where you can watch that. When you're done watching this video, you can go and see me making that. And it's very, very easy. Store-bought apple juice, some sugar, some yeast, boom. It's good stuff. Gets you quite buzzed, actually, and it's very, very inexpensive to make. So let's cover the questions I get. How do you know when it's finished fermenting? What do you do with it when it's finished fermenting? When can you drink it? Okay, these are the questions I'm getting asked. Okay, first of all, when it's fermenting, you're going to see the bubbles coming up at the side of the container. You're going to see foam on the top of the juice. You're going to see movement in there. Things are going to be happening. If you put your ear up to the side of the container, or you take off the airlock or the lid that you're using and just put your ear up to it, you're going to hear a fizzing sound, just like when you pour a glass of Coke, you hear that bubbly sound. As long as you're hearing that, it's still fermenting. Okay. Now, as far as an airlock goes, you don't need to use an airlock. You don't need to use a condom. You don't need to use a balloon. What I do is I just take the lid of the container, I screw it on just until it stops, and then I back it off just a hair, and I just leave it like that. That allows the CO2 to escape while it's fermenting, and once that's going on, nothing can get in because there's a one-way street there, and stuff's coming out, gases are coming out, nothing's going to be able to get in. Okay, so you're perfectly fine just to use the lid, just put it on loose, and tighten it until it stops, and then just back it off a hair, and you're fine. I've done that many times, and there's never a problem. Okay, so you're going to see the fermentation, you're going to hear the fermentation, you're going to know that it's going on. When it's finished, all that will stop. It could take a week, it could take 2 weeks, could take 3 weeks, could take a month. It all depends on the yeast you're using, it all depends on the juice you're using. Try to formulate some sort of a yeast nutrient using raisins. Just drop a couple of raisins in there, 3 or 4 raisins in there when you do your thing. Or if you want, you can boil them, make a little raisin tea, I guess, if you want to call it, and just pour the juice from that in. That acts as a nutrient for your yeast. Okay, helps it ferment faster and more completely. So when it stops fuzzing and fizzing and bubbling and moving around and doing whatever it's doing, it's done. Be careful what yeast you use, because if you're making a strong wine, like say 12%, some yeasts will not ferment to that alcohol level. They will die. They can't handle it. So you can try Fleischmann's bread yeast if you want, if you haven't got access to brewer's yeast. But really, if you do have access to brewer's yeast, please go and get yourself some wine yeast. Okay? It's made for wine. It's made for stronger alcohol contents. That will ensure that you don't get a stuck fermentation where the fermentation stops halfway through, the yeast all dies, and you've got like a really, really sweet, very weak wine. Okay? All right, so when it's done, no bubbling, no fizzing, no movement whatsoever. All right, okay? So now what do? It's finished. What do I do? Well, you can drink it, okay? And that's fine. It might taste a little yeasty, all right? And, you can screw the lid on tight. You might get a little bit of pressure in there. You can put it in the fridge, cool it down. That'll slow down any residual fermentation that might be taking place and stop you from getting too much pressure inside the container. And you can just drink it. I mean, that's really the simplest way to do it. Now, if you've got a little more patience and you're willing to wait a little more time, what you can do is you can bottle it. And so you put it in, say, beer bottles or, whatever, these kinds of Grolsch bottles with the flip top things, whatever, you know. And what you can do is you can put a little bit of sugar in these, and I would say probably about a teaspoon, a half a teaspoon for every 350 milliliter bottle, half a teaspoon for 12-ounce bottle. Okay, so you can extrapolate that up and do the math for bigger bottles. All right, and what that will do is it'll carbonate it. So you'll have a sparkling hard apple cider or a sparkling inmate brew. And that might take another week or two to develop and the carbonation to occur. Okay? So, and then it'll probably clear a little bit and it'll be drinkable and it'll be very delicious. Actually, it's great when it's carbonated. Now, if you don't want to carbonate it, then what you can do is you can freeze it. And what freezing it does is it kills the yeast. So put it in your freezer for a couple of days. Make sure it's frozen. It might be a little not quite frozen because alcohol doesn't freeze, right? So there'll be some loose fluid in there, but for the most part, make sure it's totally and completely frozen as much as it's going to be. That will kill the yeast and stop any future fermentation. That'll allow you to tighten the lid on all the way, and then you can just drink it, or you can bottle it. But when you bottle it, you're not going to be able to carbonate it because the yeast is dead and no carbonation will occur in the bottle with the sugar. You put sugar in a bottle, put it in there, nothing's going to happen. Okay, it won't carbonate. Not when you freeze it first. Okay, so let's say you froze it. What do you do now? You thaw it out. You're going to notice it's clearer than it was before you froze it because you killed the yeast and it's all fallen down to the bottom. Most of it has. All right, and you'll have a layer of stuff at the bottom of the container that you're fermenting it in. Word of warning, I would not do this with glass. I would not freeze it in a glass container. The glass could crack and break. All right, so let's say you froze it. Now what do you do? Again, you can drink it. You can put it in bottles. It won't carbonate, but you can put it in bottles, or you can just keep it in the container that it's in. If you're going to drink it over the next week or so, just leave it in the container and just pour out, decant it into glasses and drink it, just like I've done here. Okay, but if you want to save it and put it away and have it for whenever, then you want to sanitize some bottles and put it in there and cap those bottles off. Okay, and that'll be fine because you froze it. There's no more fermentation. It won't hurt. It won't explode or anything like that. And you can just put them in a cool place and store them. They should last if you sanitize your bottles, they should last months, I think. In there, so no problem there. If you want to clear the wine, time can do that quite nicely. But if you want to do it quickly, you can use gelatin. Okay, and there are several videos on YouTube of how to use gelatin to clear your wine. So have a look at those videos and try the methods. Look this up on YouTube, how to use gelatin to clear wine, and you'll find some different people showing you how to do it. The other thing you might want to get is, if you do have access to a homebrew supply store, get what's called isinglass or isinglass. Isinglass. I'll put it on the screen here. This is a great thing that will clear your wine. It's usually a liquid. And it comes in a little, I've seen it come in a little sachet like this. So if you're doing like a gallon of hard apple cider, a gallon of wine, then you probably want to use maybe a teaspoon of this stuff. Just put it in your wine. Don't ever shake your wine after it's fermented, when it's actually wine, because you could oxidize it. You could force oxygen into it, and that can add a tinny flavor to it. Okay, so when you add these things to clear it, just give it a gentle stir with a sanitized stir stick, okay, just to mix the clearing agent into it. Isinglass will clear it in like 2 days. It's very effective. If you can find it, give that a try, okay? And you will end up with very, very clear inmate brew or apple cider, whatever you're making. It works very well. And then you can bottle it and put it away and drink it at your leisure. So those are the things you can do to it. You can go as, you can drink it right away, or you can freeze it and kill the yeast and then drink it. It'll taste a little less yeasty, taste a little nicer. Or you can don't freeze it and you can bottle it and carbonate it. Or you can freeze it and you can bottle it and you can clear it. It's up to you. Okay, these are all the different things you can do with it. But the main thing is it's drinkable anytime. It's just that the further you take it into this, what I've just described to you, the further you take it, clearing it and leaving it in bottles and letting it age a little bit, the better it will taste. Okay, so this isn't clear. It tastes quite good, actually. It just tastes like apples with alcohol, and that's just store-bought apple juice. This was 100% pure, filtered apple juice. Okay, I would recommend you use real juice, not like some sort of punch or synthetic Kool-Aid stuff or whatever. I would not use that. Try to use real juice, pure, 100%, no preservatives. You can't have preservatives in it anyway because it'll kill your yeast. So don't try to make it out of Kool-Aid, please. You'll kill yourself. All right. Now, finally, lastly, somebody commented on one of my brewing videos, the apple cider one or whatever, and he was one of those uppity buppity purist brewers that says at least you could have gone and gotten real apples, and you could have gone to an orchard and bought apples and made it raw, properly, or you should have an apple tree in your backyard, or whatever, and one of those purist uppity buppity people, right, that doesn't think you can do it just from it's just juice that you can get from the store. Okay, right, and this is easy home brewing here on CraigTube. Okay, so I'm not really prepared to drive to an orchard and buy 20 pounds of apples, or 10 pounds of apples, or whatever. But if you do want to make it from real apples, go for it. Go to the grocery store, buy a couple pounds of apples, get a juicer. Juice the apples, get the juice out of the apples, make sure everything's sanitized so the juice is not going to get infected, and use that to make your hooch, your inmate brew, your wine, whatever it is you're making. And if you want to go through that procedure, or if you do have apples, strawberries, raspberries, those things growing in your garden or in your backyard, hey, you're off to the races. You've got it made, because this is not going to cost you anything. If you've got that stuff growing, by all means, use that. You're lucky. I don't. I live in a city. I don't have apple trees around me. I don't want to drive to an orchard and get apples. I use 100% pure, pasteurized, filtered apple juice to make my apple cider, and it tastes absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's delicious. Absolutely delicious. I wonder if Mr. Cricket back there would like some, hey? Anyway, might put him to sleep. Okay, so that's apple cider, that's inmate brew, that's hooch, as it's sometimes called. That's what you do with it. That's what the options are. It's up to you how far you want to take that. Thanks for watching. Make it. Go to the store. Get some juice, apple juice, no preservatives. Get pure apple juice if you can, or apple cider if you can. Get some sugar, get some yeast, wine yeast if you can. Watch the video how I made this and make it. It costs you about $3-4 to make about 4 bottles of wine. Might even cost you less than that, depending on where you get everything. It's very, very cheap. It's delicious, and you can get quite tipsy. Trust me. Okay, so be careful. Thanks for watching, guys. More brewing videos are coming up. I'm out of here. I gotta catch a cricket. Okay, it's driving me nuts. All right. Thanks, guys. Take care. Cheers.